There's a lot, and that's one of the reasons I really try to focus on art, because you can see such, I guess, the essence of society beyond goodwill is through the arts, you know.
Mhm. Yes, it is. All we have to do is expose people to it.
I remain optimistic.
There, me too. That's the only way to be, really.
Yeah. How do you view life these days? I mean, you've had an incredible career, but you're always, I feel like you've never lost that childlike wonder.
Well, thanks. I probably owe that to my mom, because she was just that way. She's a grown-up kid, and she was always wide open to any discussions about anything, you know. Was sort of she was ingenuous in so many ways. And I think some of that rubbed off, but yeah, I don't know what the question was. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just like I had posed a kind of a similar question to Rhonda Vincent one time, and she had said, you know, no matter what, in her words, I'm always going to be that teenage girl, carefree and running around a bluegrass festival.
Yeah, I'm not. I think I'm growing up. I'm ready to do things a little more cerebrally, I think.
Well, what does that mean? What are you up to now? I mean, are you working on an album? Are you got, you know, irons in the fire, or?
Yes, a little bit. I'm not stirring the fire very much right now, because it's such a huge, major financial, physical transition to move from one country to another, and into another society. And there's, after 10 years of really full-time, I mean extremely full-time touring, I'm taking just time to catch up and figure out what I want to do next. I'm writing. I'm sitting right now in my office on the third floor of a city street. It's a residential street, but the house is like a 100-year-old house, you know, with 4 stories, and I've got a really beautiful spot to sit and write. And I'm trying to figure out my next strategy for an album, whether I want to go the regular way with a label, or, you know, do it myself and offer 3 or 4 songs at a time for download. You know, doing a lot of things. My wiki page is pitiful. You know, those kind of things need catching up.
Oh, yeah.
And they just can't do that and tour full time. So I'm exploring. I'm playing with Canadian musicians up here, and I also have a U.S. unit. So I'm working like both sides of the border with both bands.
Well, what's so interesting is, you know, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but I grew up on the Canadian border, and it's always been a big part of not only my family's heritage, but also just subconsciously growing up on the border, you know, and just always going to, you know, my dad was an immigration officer, and we used to always go into Canada all the time, just even for grocery shopping and stuff at the IGA. And yeah, it's always been a big part of my soul. But I'm curious too, for yourself. I know your husband's from Canada, correct?
Yes, correct.
And so what has been your big takeaway with your relationship with Canada, personally and professionally? Because obviously on personal side, you're married to a Canadian and you live in Canada, but I would say too on the professional side, there's so much at the core of acoustic and bluegrass music that does reside in those Celtic channels that go through Canada. Yep,
it does. It does. It's very respected, and also in Toronto in particular. The folk movement up here in Toronto was just as big as it was in Greenwich Village.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, Toronto was the other city where the folk movement boomed. And so people are wide open to acoustic music, and to, you know, bluegrass is folk music.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a lot of open arms and reception and open-mindedness about it, not so much policing bluegrass in the way it has to be because it's from the mountains of southeastern United States, you know. It's more of a wide-open, creative sort of approach to it.
We also got the big Cajun influence.
Huge. And as a matter of fact, the guy that's playing fiddle with me up here, he can play any style. all of the different Canadian styles of fiddling, and bluegrass, and Texas swing, and does some classical. So it's I forget what the question was, but
I guess what's your big takeaway, maybe just in general, because although I'm well aware of Canada, I'm curious what you might want to say to our readers who might not know too much about our brother to the north.
Well, I would say that the people from the British Isles who settled in the southern Appalachian Mountains are also the same people who settled in Newfoundland and the East Coast, the Atlantic coast of Canada. And it was that same heritage of music has been birthed in Canada as it was in the United States.
Yeah.
And there are communities up there that preserve and protect, folk fiddling music, and not so much banjo, but banjo creeped up into Canada from the United States. And also that there were a lot of slaves and former slaves who immigrated to Canada or came through, were smuggled into Canada for protection.
Yeah.
So we have a good black heritage here too, and that's part of bluegrass. So all the elements are here and being nurtured and preserved and are evolving just like they are in the United States.
Well, I guess it also circles back to that, what we were talking about before, is how much we as just people, human beings, have in common that we sometimes forget because of an international line or a state line or whatever, invisible barriers.
Yeah, or political policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really not so different as the United States, and it's kind of sad that we're such good neighbors and such wonderful importers and exporters with each other, and yet don't know a lot about each other's society. I would say Canadians know a heck of a lot more about the United States and our music than Americans know about Canadian music.
Yeah.
That's why I did that album.
Yeah.
It was like, look what's up here.